She laughed as she tossed the challenge across the workshop floor, a cruel smile hiding behind her pristine engineering badge. "Fix this engine, and maybe I'll marry you," she sneered, fully expecting him to fail. But the man she targeted wasn't just any mechanic. He was skilled, relentless, and underestimated by everyone around him. What she didn't realize was that this challenge would ignite a battle far bigger than one engine. Could he succeed where everyone else had failed, and expose a truth that would change everything in the workshop? It was just another morning at the workshop. David had been repairing engines for over a decade, his hands steady and precise from years of experience. Cars, trucks, and sometimes the odd vintage model came across his workbench. Each one a challenge he embraced with quiet confidence. Outside the shop, the city buzzed as usual, people rushing by, unaware of the small victories that happen inside garages like his every day. David's routine was simple but fulfilling. He enjoyed the rhythm of his work, the hum of the engine, the smell of oil, the satisfaction of a problem solved. He took pride in helping others, teaching younger mechanics when he had a moment, and earning a reputation for solving problems that left others scratching their heads. Life wasn't always easy, but he had built something solid for himself, a space where skill and perseverance mattered more than anything else. Yet, even in this haven, whispers of rivalry and jealousy lingered. Some colleagues admired him, while others quietly resented the attention he drew. And then there was Rebecca, a rising star in engineering with a sharp mind and a sharper ego. She had a way of turning ordinary situations into competitions, and lately, David had caught her eye, not for friendship, but as someone she could publicly challenge. That morning, the tension was almost palpable as Rebecca walked into the workshop, her gaze scanning the room with a mix of curiosity and calculation. David sensed something was coming, but didn't know how personal it would get, or how high the stakes were about to rise. One engine, one challenge, and everything he had built could either shine brilliantly or be put to the ultimate test. The engine sat on the workbench like a ticking time bomb, every dent and scratch telling a story of sabotage. David circled it carefully, his fingers brushing the warped metal, trying to assess the impossible. Everyone in the workshop had stopped to watch, some curious, others expecting him to fail. Rebecca stood at the edge, arms crossed, a confident smirk playing on her lips. She had made the challenge public, framing it as a test of skill, but it was clear she wanted one thing: to humiliate him in front of the entire team. David took a deep breath, letting the hum of the workshop settle him. He started systematically, checking wires, pistons, and fuel lines. At every turn, the engine seemed to mock him. Bolts missing, wires cut, components bent in ways no manual could explain. Frustration rippled through the room, and whispers began to spread. "It's impossible," someone muttered. Another shook their head, muttering under their breath that he would never finish. But David's hands moved with precision, intuition guiding him where instructions could not. Hours passed, and the challenge grew more intense. Rebecca prowled nearby, offering advice that was little more than distraction. When she noticed David's steady focus, she tried to sabotage him further, hiding parts, mislabeling tools, even claiming he had misread critical instructions. Every time he uncovered one of her tricks, he had to start over, the weight of humiliation pressing down. Yet, with every obstacle, David grew more determined. He didn't just want to fix the engine. He wanted to prove that skill, patience, and integrity could overcome deceit. Tension in the room was electric. Fellow mechanics leaned closer, torn between awe and fear, while Rebecca's smirk began to falter. She was so used to controlling situations, to turning every challenge in her favor. But David was different. He anticipated every trick, adapted to every setback, and quietly, almost imperceptibly, the narrative began to shift. People who had doubted him were now watching, captivated by his focus, silently cheering as he worked against impossible odds. Then came the moment of near defeat. A critical component, essential for the engine to run, had been deliberately damaged beyond recognition. Sweat beaded on David's forehead, and the room fell silent. Everyone held their breath. Could he find a way to overcome it? With a sharp intake of breath, he assessed the damage, found an innovative workaround, and began the painstaking process of rebuilding piece by piece. The suspense was unbearable. One mistake, and the entire challenge would collapse, just as Rebecca had intended. Little did she know, each hurdle she placed had only highlighted David's ingenuity. With a final, careful adjustment, the engine roared to life, powerful and unyielding. A stunned silence followed, then a ripple of astonished murmurs. Rebecca's confidence had evaporated, replaced by disbelief. The tables were turning, and the story was far from over. The question now wasn't whether David could win, but what the consequences of his success would reveal. The engine's roar echoed through the workshop like a declaration, shaking the very air. David stepped back, chest heaving, as everyone absorbed what had just happened. He had done the impossible. But the tension didn't fade. Rebecca's fury filled the room like a storm. Her smirk was gone, replaced by a mask of disbelief and thinly veiled rage. She hadn't expected him to succeed, and now the power she had wielded so effortlessly was slipping from her grasp. Rebecca's next move was swift and calculated. She demanded the engine be inspected, claiming procedural errors and questioning the legitimacy of his work. The whispers around the room grew louder, some siding with her, others unsure. David could feel the weight of every skeptical glance, every doubtful voice. It was no longer just about fixing an engine. It was about proving that honesty, skill, and determination could withstand manipulation and deceit. As the inspector scrutinized every detail, David remained calm, letting the evidence speak for itself. Every repair, every adjustment, every clever workaround he had executed was undeniable. Slowly, the tide began to turn. Colleagues who had doubted him now leaned in, admiration replacing suspicion. Rebecca's arguments faltered, her carefully constructed narrative crumbling with every demonstration of David's expertise. The most intense moment came when the inspector finally nodded, satisfied with the flawless operation of the engine. The room went silent, the kind of silence that carries shock, disbelief, and the beginning of respect. Rebecca's face paled, realizing that her attempt to humiliate and undermine had spectacularly backfired. The very engine she had hoped would be his downfall had become the instrument of her exposure. In that charged silence, it became clear this was more than a personal victory. It was a turning point, a moment where ingenuity, resilience, and integrity triumphed over deceit and arrogance. David stood amidst the quiet, victorious yet unassuming, knowing that the consequences of this moment would ripple far beyond the walls of the workshop. The question hung in the air, heavy and electric. Could one man's determination really topple years of manipulation and control? The answer was about to unfold. The workshop slowly returned to its usual rhythm, but nothing felt the same. David's victory over the sabotaged engine wasn't just a personal triumph. It had exposed the hidden currents of manipulation and bias that had long undermined fairness and merit. Colleagues who once doubted him now looked with newfound respect, not just for his skill, but for his resilience under pressure. The challenge that had seemed like a cruel joke had become a powerful testament to integrity, patience, and unwavering dedication. Rebecca faced consequences that could no longer be ignored. Her attempts to discredit David had backfired spectacularly, revealing a pattern of favoritism and sabotage that could not be swept under the rug. Professional repercussions followed, but perhaps more importantly, the illusion of control she had maintained for so long had been shattered. It was a clear reminder: when talent and honesty meet deceit, truth has a way of prevailing. For David, the moment was transformative. He didn't just prove his technical mastery. He proved that character matters, that perseverance can outshine arrogance, and that integrity is a force stronger than intimidation. His reputation grew, and with it, the chance to mentor others, to build spaces where fairness and respect outweighed manipulation and prejudice. What had begun as a simple challenge became a turning point, a story of quiet courage that resonated far beyond the walls of a single workshop. The engine, now flawless, stood as a symbol, a reminder that even in the face of deliberate obstacles, skill and determination can triumph. Yet, the larger lesson lingered. How often do capable, hard-working individuals face hidden barriers designed to hold them back? How many brilliant minds are underestimated, challenged unfairly, or dismissed because of bias in subtle or overt ways? David's story ends here, but the questions it raises continue. It challenges us to look at our own workplaces, communities, and societies. Are we creating environments where everyone's talent can thrive, or are we still allowing prejudice and manipulation to dictate who succeeds? And ultimately, it asks each of us, what can we do to ensure that fairness, respect, and integrity are never optional? If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more inspiring real-life stories of resilience and triumph, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload.